Welcome everybody to another episode of the Wheel of Fortune Natural Selection 2 theme. No, just kidding. It's your another
Thought you were serious
episode.
for a second.
It's another episode of Nexus Esports Edition, and we're gonna talk today again about Natural Selection 2. It's been a while since we've covered about this venue, this amazing game, and we have not only one, not only two, but we have three guests tonight. We have Blind. Hello, Blind. How are you?
Hey, fine.
We have Red Dog. Hello, Red Dog.
Hello, how's it going?
It's going good. And we have Solenthia, or Sol. How are you, Sol?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Well, thank you for joining us, all three of you. And before we, talk about Natural Selection 2, what is it and how it is, and every detail that we can about the game, let's talk about each one of you and your background with esports and whatnot. So let's start with you, Blind. What's your background in esports?
Oh, sure. Well, I started playing this game NS1 when it came out, the first version. That's over 10 years ago. But in esports, I started picking up actually competitive gameplay for NS in 2009, and also started casting the game. I had a quick break on a Starcraft 2 beta where I also started there and cast a little bit with some other casters as well, but figured out that this is not my game, what I love to play. I love to play NS all over the time. I completely stick to the game, so it was just logical to, well, stay in there and stick to NS2.
Interesting. So you do have a fair amount of experience casting and also adminning and whatnot, right?
Yes, so, well, with ENSL, with this league for NS1, I started there helping out the league on 2010 or something like that, and right now I'm actually head admin of the league in NS2.
Nice, nice. So we have a very distinguished guest tonight, guys. So we're gonna talk about ENSL in a few minutes. Now, moving towards Saul. So, Anthea, what about you? How's your relationship with esports and natural selection?
Well, actually, I started playing NS1 as well, way back when. Almost gave up on NS2, to be honest, after so many years.
What?
I did. I was like, so it kept getting pushed back, but I'm so glad that, I came out and I stuck with it. I didn't actually get into the esports part of it until much later, like in the middle of the ENSL's first season for NS2. I came in as a co-caster with somebody who's still a good friend of mine, and then he moved on to other things, and I stayed. So I came back to do some casting for the Invitational, and now I cast as well in season 2, and I'm also now recently appointed admin by Blind, doing most of like the background stuff, keeping everything organized and stuff like that.
That's awesome. Did you have had any experience of casting before natural selection too? Was it something you said, how did it come to you that you could do this? And you love casting and whatnot, and this is something I'm good at. How did that happen?
Completely by accident, actually. It never even crossed my mind to cast until I was playing with the Reddit NS2 group, and then my co-caster at the time was casting for them, and then he's like, I need a co-caster, and then all of a sudden he pulls me up there, and that's how it started, and then it just advanced from there to me having my own channel and doing my own thing.
Anyway, and now going towards Sting Red Dog. What's your history with esports and natural selection?
Well, with me, I played, as well as Blind and Soul here, I played NS1 back in the day when it was a mod and loved it. In terms of esports, I played a lot of Team Fortress back in the day. Started with Quake 1 Team Fortress, and then it moved to TFC, Team Fortress Classic with Half-Life. Got into that and got into the leagues there, the TF League, the Stronger Than All, the OGL. I don't know anyone out there that is old enough to remember those leagues, but they were very fun. I was an admin for the TF League for a while. I ran the ladders, ran the matches, and I got into predicting and commenting back then. And then I found out NS2 was coming out, was very looking forward to it, and grabbed it, loved it right away, and just wanted to cast for it because I just thought it was such an exciting game to cast. I actually have more fun casting than I do playing, and quite frankly, if anyone has seen me in a server, they would know that that was true.
So, one thing that I notice more often than not, that Natural Selection 2 is growing, it's getting a bit more viewers, and, teams are showing up, and there's a lot of, tournaments all days of the week almost. Many people are noticing the game, people from other venues from esports, let's say Starcraft or Counter-Strike and whatnot. And most of the first impressions are, what is this? I mean, it looks like just a FPS, and then you go around explaining exactly, what it is, or trying to at least. But as you guys are the casters and, experts within the NSL, how could you describe Natural Selection to people that have heard or haven't heard of the game?
Most people are trying to put a comparison there. It's like if you imagine StarCraft 2, you have playing your RTS game and you have your little units like Zerglings running around. Just imagine your units are actually players you have to command. So it is an RTS game in general, but of course most of it is an FPS game because 10 of 12 players in an organized match will be playing this game actually from a first person point of view, which means most of the players experience this FPS element, but the whole background is real-time strategy. And both teams have a commander directing their teams, which means they're giving the orders, they have to control everything that is happening and the people carrying out the orders, which creates a really interesting dynamic, not just in organized matches, also in public games. You will get this experience on how actually tricky it can be to try to run a team and try to make actually people move in the direction you want to actually have them moving. Because if you hit orders in StarCraft 2, the people will go just go there, follow blindly, but it's completely different with human beings.
Just to add to that, and Blind, that was a great description of the game. Even though it is a hybrid between an RTS and a first-person shooter, and a lot of people liken StarCraft, to getting into your StarCraft units in a first-person sense. The one thing that Blind touched on at the end was something to get used to is, unlike in StarCraft, sometimes the units that you direct around or want to direct around your map don't go to where you are sending them. So, overcoming that and knowing that these are actually real people and not drones around the map is something to get used to for a new player. And also that new player that's actually in the game, knowing that it's probably better to follow the orders of the commander.
In addition to what they both said, that's just something that I really love about NS2 is it's not straight first-person shooter. It's not straight real-time strategy. You can't have one without the other in this game. You can have guys who can shoot till kingdom come, but without the upgrades that the commander gives you, you'll still end up losing in the long run. I mean, that may or may not happen, but that's just something to be mindful of. And it's the same way you can have a great commander, but if your team doesn't listen to you, then you guys are also more likely to lose. It's just it's a great hybrid. That's what I loved about NS1, and that's why I came back for NS2.
I think I need to add something, sorry about that, because I completely forgot about it. For people who don't know what NS2 is, I forgot to set the scenario. It's actually Marines playing versus aliens. So you have human beings with guns, with ranged weapons, playing against nasty aliens who prefer close combat. And another really important aspect of the game is that mostly you have this kind of ranged versus melee setup, which completely changes the FPS experience you have. There are also aliens which have ranged weapons, but it's only few. So mostly of the game you will stuck to life forms who needs to come close to the Marines. So this also develops interesting mechanics on how you play this game on a tactical level, on your Marines, on the positioning that you want to keep your distance to the aliens. On for the aliens, you need to set up ambushes, need to get close to the enemy when they're reloading, when they don't expect you. rush them together or something like that. That's also a big part of the game.
All these complexities of the game make it a bit hard to master. I mean, in other words, it's a bit of a steep learning curve. Would you guys agree with that in terms of, yeah, trying to master and be good at the game?
I would say yes. This is obviously an issue to any game which is a little bit more complex, like the standard Modern Warfare, where you just run out and kill stuff. So it's part of the game how you actually need to explain the game. So if you just play this game the first time, you pop in, you have this little pop-ups which help you describe what each structure does, like what the upgrades are good for, but you cannot actually do this. It's really hard to just jump in. If you jump in first time in the command tier and try to command, you spend most of the time reading what everything does. Just imagine you play Starcraft 2 and you just read what every units you can build does. By the whole time you have lots of people waiting for your orders, waiting for map packs being dropped, waiting for resource towers being dropped, and you completely will screw the game with that. So it's hard to get in, of course. But once you play some games, you will pick it up. And as soon as you pick it up, you will find out that in between in the meta game, there's so much more to explore after you understood the basics. So it's still interesting over a long time of period.
I think the biggest problem sometimes, or mistake, I should say, that a new player does is they jump in and they jump into the command share. That's probably not going to get you a very good reaction from your teammates, especially if you don't understand what you're doing. My recommendation is, join up in a game, play, as a unit, whether that be alien or Marines, understand it, listen to the commander, and just go around the game and start having fun. There are some great tutorials that are inside NS2, just accessed through the menus. And quite frankly, I used those before I jumped into a comm share for the first time when I picked up the game. I played around, I was a unit, I followed my commander, whatever. After I got used to what things were and what the commanders that I was playing with were doing, I jumped in the tutorials, in the command tutorials for both Alien and Commander, learned that, and then I also launched the Explore mode and jumped into the command chair then and read everything when no one was bothering me about med packs or we need something built here and blah blah blah. I could do it at my own time and realize what things were as I go. So utilizing those resources, I think, are very key to a new player.
It's definitely a little bit jarring for the new player if you're not used to it. But it's like these guys said, there's tools that you can use. The community is definitely something I've noticed that, especially when the game first came out, has been incredibly helpful to each other. If you get in the right servers with the right people, they're willing to help train new commanders, give them tips and stuff. And that was something that I really liked to see when the game first came out, was that the community was really trying to help each other. And also what Red Dog said, something that Unknown Worlds did, which was really great, was they added an Explore mode. It's just you or, maybe like a couple of your friends if you want. And then you make your own server of sorts, and then you can explore around the map. You can look around, see where everything is on both teams. And then you can hop in the command chair, see what all this stuff is, so you have a basic understanding of how everything works before jumping into the game like completely as a rookie. And it just gives you something to remember, and then it's better to do in practice in a real game, but at least you're not going in completely green and not knowing what goes where.
For the people that are already aware about Natural Selection 2 and somehow what it is, let's talk about the eSports scene of Natural Selection 2, and specifically ENSL. I mean, what is it, basically, and how does it work and run? I guess Blind, if you can take this, because you're, numero uno.
ENSL obviously has a long history. I'll try to wrap it up as best as I can. And, NS started 2002, and there was obviously after that several leagues across the world popping up, national leagues, and also mainly in Europe, there are many of those. So ENSL forked off together 2005 from actually the French Natural Selection League, which was started there over, and some people took over the job, and from there they started running leagues, events, night cups, basically just running the tournaments. This went over up to 2010. and in sum up, I think it was over 15 complete seasons and about 20 cups, which ENSL hosted and which I witnessed at the end, like the last 3 seasons. So I came in a little bit late, although I was an NS player for a longer time. So it was quite successful in that. It also had some really nice nation cups or show matches, exhibition matches, like for example the Team US versus Team Europe. That was quite anticipated matches there where everyone was watching and quite amazing times. Then NS2 came because NS2 had a long, for people who don't know, it had a really long development history. After NS1 was somewhat finalized with their last version, I think 3.2. I think they announced it in somewhat 2006 that they're working on it. First on a source engine, then they switched over to do their own engine, which is called Spark, which also looks pretty nice and awesome, especially for such a small indie development team to get up their own engine. This is quite astonishing work, to be honest. So it took some time actually to NS2 to get running, and that is a really long alpha and beta time, which started over in something 2010, if I'm not mistaken. But don't get me wrong, don't blame me, please, for throwing away the numbers there. I'm not sure when they started making public. I think it was 2009,
No,
1229 or something.
it's fine. It's fine. And talking about ENSL, you mentioned a lot of seasons, and 21 cups and whatnot. How do you guys work? I mean, do you have a very organized tournament system? Is there sponsoring within ENSL?
Yeah, we have a league system basically where we put we had basically at the start European teams only. That's why where the name ENSL derived at first, European Natural Selection League. So it was teams all across Europe, and we had leagues with several divisions and groups, like putting them skill-wise into groups of like 8 or something, several divisions. So of course only the teams in the same skill set play against each other mostly. And NS1 time there was no sponsoring. Right now we changed some stuff on NS2s as we picked up the season again. Which happened like end of last year with the launch of NS2. And we started to do this on a global scale. So we don't just focus on European teams. We have European League, we have a North American League, we also have an Australian League. And this all runs under the name NSL, which stands for Natural Selection Leagues in plural. So ENSL is kind of doing a transition right now from ENSL to a global scale NSL. And the sponsoring will also happen probably soon because there's stuff happening right now, but I can't promise anything because nothing is set in stone, of course. I can just tell you that NSL is changing, getting new website, approaching sponsors, getting prize pool in there, because that was all not there in NS1. NS1 was a little bit more hobby-like tournaments, and on NS2 we are approaching a more professional approach there.
I've only recently noticing what really it takes after being a new admin and then seeing everything that goes on behind the scenes. It's pretty crazy because you have the admins that help with the league, but then you have all these teams to take into consideration and their players before making any big decisions, and that's something that I like as well. It's like we take the players into consideration before we decide, hey, we're going to make this big huge change. They want the opinion of the community that plays the games, because without them, we're managing ourselves, and that's no fun. There's a lot of stuff going on in the background just with organizing things, and that's something that I really hope to help with, because sometimes, I can see different things the guys don't.
Do you guys have any, near to future objectives?
Yeah, besides the standard league format, we also hosting several cups or events also in between the seasons. During 2 seasons, we usually have a break of 2 or 3 months. For example, take the end of season 2, there will be a summer break, and we will host several cups. For example, we have planned a Nations Cup with say Team Finland, Team USA, Team Germany, Team all over the world, whoever has enough players can field their team. This is just one example of cups we host there. Actually, we organized the NSL Invitational Cup, which has been or is still currently the biggest event of NS2 history, with a prize pool over $7,300 a year, which is sponsored by Unknown Worlds Entertainment, the developer itself. So they came in. We have a good relationship, which is pretty nice to have. And also Gear by Logitech. So this is a pretty great event. And on the upcoming 12th of April, it will be actually streamed live from Cologne. So there is the ESL, the Electronic Sports League. They have a live studio. So the teams are flying into Germany, and they will be there on this Friday. They will fight it out on a LAN stage, and it will be streamed live. This is just going to be epic.
Yeah, I remember, and I know Nexel is gonna fight Artia, right, on that event.
Exactly.
With all of these leagues and cups that are showing up and whatnot, how do you guys see the overall esports community participation? And by that, I mean not only people that are already involved in natural selection, but new people that are getting into the game, loving the game, and making their own teams and whatnot. I mean, do you guys see a steady growth to that in that regard towards natural selection too?
I think that as we, as the league continues to grow and change, especially with some new upgrades that Blind just mentioned, I think that this game at its core is really exciting and really fun. I mean, that's one of the main reasons that I love casting it. So I think as hopefully the casters get the word out and get viewers looking at the cast and seeing this new game and seeing it in action, I think that'll ultimately help the game's growth as a whole, and them get their friends together to form a team, join the ENSL, and start playing some games. I just think it's having the league there backing the game is very, very important to growing the player base.
We are still the biggest host for any kind of competitive tournaments, but Underworlds is actually really working hard on improving the game towards being more competitive friendly, or to help players actually get into organized matches. Because let's be honest, if you have some websites all around, or if you have some groups somewhere, if you're a new player and jump in, play the game, you will not notice it unless you browse the web or ask people all around. So Underworlds is working currently right now to get some game integration into the game itself. We had a meeting about that, what would be necessary, what is really good. So I'm also glad that Underworlds really appreciates the feedback of the community everywhere where it goes, and actually working on some system where you can also play pickup games right through the game, which means you don't have to go on some third-party websites, find them, and try to get some games going there, which is the state right now, or many games. So they want to help the players actually just start up the game, click some buttons, and start an organized game, and just experience a completely different experience of the game, not just on public gameplay. We have 20 people running randomly around, but a 6v6 matchup where you need team communication, where you need to have really tactics working together, develop a strategy, and work with your team forward, which is, I think that's two different ways how to play the game, and they're really working on making that easier. So they're also working on a new website feature integration to the game, where people can host cups or other tournaments throughout the game itself. So I think we will in the future see much more competitions around the game, and I hope this will help the growth by great margin.
Yeah, I came in halfway through season 1, and then again in season 2. Right from there, like the growth just in the ENSL, there were a lot more teams that joined the ENSL the next season. It was a dramatic increase between the two seasons, and I was really exciting to see. When I cast, sometimes I see new people coming in saying, "Hey, what's this game?" And you try and talk to them about it as you cast the game. So the interest is still there, and it's really great to see. And like Blind said, the ENSL isn't the only one that is doing competitive stuff. Actually, recently, Nexel, one of the really great North American teams going to Cologne, is hosting their own tournament for teams that aren't in the top tier. Like, it gives the teams that are there but kind of not, like, at the top, to give them a chance to shine a bit more, give them the center of the attention. And you see a lot of there was definitely a lot of response to that. They have 24 teams playing. It's going to be played in a couple of weeks. They're going to start it. And that's just going to be something really exciting to see as well.
Going to casting natural selection too. One thing that I noticed, just to give a crude description, obviously, because natural selection 2 is very unique. Contrasting two genres, FPS and strategy, RTS. When you're casting CSGO, you're talking about, who has, a better skill shot, who is, point man, who has like probably an SMG, who stays in the back, uses a sniper, who uses nades, grenade shots or smoke grenades to, a lot of CC and whatnot. And you talk about that, and there's always a captain as well. But in StarCraft 2, it's always one person against one person. You're talking about strategies in terms of resources because it's basically an economics game. And you need resources to advance your tech and build your units. And depending on the map, sometimes it's easy to defend an expansion, sometimes it's more vulnerable and whatnot. So there's all these different aspects that you have to take into account when casting. How do you guys manage balancing the FPS and RTS aspect when casting natural selection 2?
You already covered several points, and from both games fit into NS2. So if you see on the skill set, like if you say you have a certain role to people who are really good about that the same applies to NS2. You have certain life forms like Fates and Lerks and Skulks, Scorches, whatnot. And this also, many players have their favorite role or are really strong in that role. So what you see a lot is dedicated lurks in the early mid game or later on the Fates. You will pick the players who are best at the role to actually evolve into that life form to get an advantage for a team. So you have dedicated lurk, Fate players or Gorge players mostly in the teams because they know how to play this role the best, and so this really takes a great portion into the game from FPS side. Also on Marines, of course, everyone has to do the same role. There is no like you're just good in defending, you're just good in attacking. You have to be able to pick up all the roles. It's much more equal there, I guess. So far for FPS and for strategy about resources, this completely applies to NS2, of course, while the commander is basically in charge of how he invests the resources and what strategy involves, and actually also depending on the map, what he's doing, which strategy he's following, basically. Every player itself needs to develop a certain sense of the game, understanding of the game, to really know how to position themselves. Although the commander mostly, especially on Marine side, micromanages a lot, like where the Marines are going actually to cover up those spots. On Alien side, it's a little bit more tricky, and the players need to know mostly by themselves where to go, when to defend harvesters, when to attack or bite other resources down. Basically, the eco game, the res war, which is constantly going throughout the game, is so important. So every player, especially on Alien side, needs to know this kind of gameplay.
As casters, we also need to be aware of it for both teams. They only know what they're doing, and they can only assume what the other team is doing. We know both. We have the top-down view. We see everything that each team does. And the biggest thing when casting is map awareness. You could be following one section, and then you see this big thing going on here, and then you'll never know if you're not paying attention to that mini-map that there's this one little guy going around the side destroying upgrades and things until you like really look at it. So this is something that as casters we try to be aware of to see what else is going on around the map. Trying to see all that isn't as easy as it sounds.
You do try your best to capture all the action that's going on the map. I mean, you want to make sure that you're there for the huge battles, but then also make sure that you are scanning the map and seeing any flashes and stuff. Now, personally on my casts, whenever I play NS2, I usually command. So I'm usually used to just popping up the overlay, the big map overlay, to see quickly, just to see what's happening on the map. I really suck at seeing what's happening on the map through the mini map, though sometimes I try to click on that just to do it. But if you see any one of my casts, I'm usually clicking around just on the overlay, and that helps me kind of quickly glance at the map, look at what's being happening, seeing if the big fight that I'm looking at right now seeing if there's somewhere else in the map where a push or a fight is happening, or a fade is getting stuck on a corner. I think that's the balance there is that you're really trying to capture everything that's happening in a match, and sometimes that's like three or four sections of the map where action's happening. You got to kind of prioritize as to what is the most important to look at. What do you think is going to make the largest impact, on the game? And as far as like managing, because there's been a lot of things lately where people have been wanting more first-person view when you're casting versus overhead. There is a balance in that, and I know that I've chatted about it with during my casts and stuff like that. But there definitely is a balance between doing that, because when you go into first person, one, it's sometimes really hard to know when is a good time to do that, because you don't know what these people on the map are going to do. They could be running into a room for an engagement and then oops, change their mind and run away in a different direction, and you just first person them. So keeping that in mind, and then also when the engagement starts, figuring out who's going to live long enough to actually click on and get the first person view on before they actually die. There have been so many times that I have clicked on someone, hit the first person view, only to get a black death screen like a second later, so it was completely worthless. Another thing is that you lose all map awareness as a caster. So you could stick on a good fight and first person someone on a good fight, but you lose everything else that's going on around the map. You don't know if there's a counter push happening somewhere and all that stuff. And at the end of the day, your job is to bring what's going on the match holistically to your viewers, instead of just sticking on a first person view. So again, I get why people want it. They want to feel that they're immersed in the game, immersed in the action. But it's a trade-off. You do miss a lot if you do that too much.
And especially when casting this game, it's not easy. I played Counter-Strike for a long time. I also casted Starcraft 2, also with some other people, and hosted tournaments for it. So just comparing the experience, when you, for example, watch Starcraft 2, you constantly look at the minimap, which is really important, where you click your camera and then you have to pick a decision. But in Starcraft 2, it's much easier actually to pick up the action, because the players cannot multitask so much like the action is going on in NS2, basically because one person is trying to do all the same stuff. On NS2, like Red Dog pointed out, there could be, in worst case, 6 different fights going on at the same time on the map, which means what you have to do as a caster, you really need to constantly check your minimap. And what is even more important, because he pointed out that you don't know what's happening next. What will help out by a great margin is that you have actually developed an own game sense, probably preferably by playing longer time. Or I know what helped me a lot is like commanding on a competitive team, because then you develop this kind of game sense. You develop the feeling for the timings. When is a hive drop? When will aliens attack? When do the Marines need to push out somewhere? When will the pressure team hit those RTs or something? So when casting, this helps a lot out, because you know when to look at what aspect of the map. When is the action happening? When what's example is I can look at the hive spot just 2 seconds before the commander drops it. I don't want to go there, but I mean, this really helps you out a lot, and this is not easy to go there. Actually, my nickname early on when I started casting was always Miss the Action Caster, because I always missed when the Lurk was dying or the Fade was dying in NS1. I was completely terrible about it, and it takes so long to actually get a good feeling for when to watch where on the map and talk about the strategy going in behind at the same time. So in comparison to StarCraft 2 or Counter-Strike, I would dare to say that casting NS2 is much more difficult.
For instance, if you guys say see like a strong play from a team, is that more in regards to the field players or the comms?
If a good play, for me, it's a little bit of both, because of the way that the game is played. You have the RTS elements, you have the first-person shooter elements. You can have a great plan on paper, but if the team can't execute it, it doesn't do you any good. And the other way around too. The team can execute a really great plan, I tend to compliment both because you got to have good aim, you got to have a good plan, and just the way the team works together. You don't see too much of like the separation between commander and the team. It's just one team, and it's great to see like the different plans that they do, and even some surprises, which is even better in my book. So that's something just different that you never know would happen. I commend both.
If it's a strategy that the whole team is doing, you know that they practice that. They discussed it in scrims and all that stuff. So I like seeing right from the beginning. I love it when teams don't wing it. And I've seen both. I've seen teams that just wing it, and I've seen teams that really have a goal of what they're going to do right when they start the game, whether it's aliens or marines, and that's what I love seeing unfold. And quite frankly, the teams that do have that locked together from the beginning, I see win more. Other than the teams that just try to wing it, the teams that have what they're going to do on a certain map right away. What's their strategy in the beginning? What's their strategy in the mid game? What's their strategy in the end game? And when you can see that unfold while you're casting, it just makes it way more exciting.
It's about a team communication to actually, if you have to go somewhere, react to a certain situation in about a second or something, that everyone is doing the same. For example, if a rush is occurring to your base or to your hive, you have to decide in a split second, will you defend it or do you go for a counter rush? And what is the worst situation you can actually do is like half the team does A and half the team does B, because that will actually instantly lose the game. So this is part of discipline and fellowship and team communication. So, well, there's lots of stuff evolving into that. But by just going by a strong play, by watching it, I usually recommend the calm tactic first, because he has the idea where he's going with his team, what is his strategy. And if the execution is wrong or right, you can see it actually happening on the field. Like if the Marines miss too many bullets, if they position themselves really badly and thus losing an engagement, or otherwise if they shoot damn well and just win a fight they shouldn't have lost, then you definitely should give heads up to the players. But if it's actually a really amazing timing for a push, when the commander sends out 3 Marines into a hive just because he knows exactly the timing, then it's up to the commander. What you need to consider in this game, this is not a game like Starcraft where you have circlings fight something else, where you know the outcome because every unit does the same amount of damage. Every engagement is predictable. In NS2, you just have chances. You have experience, you have statistics. You know your 3 Marines should be able to kill those 4 skulks in that room, or you have like an 80% chance to win this engagement. But you never know. So you just can go with the strategy by chances, basically. And if you fight a really strong game, you might need to pick up some other strategies, like, for example, some cheese strategies, going for some sort of rushes, exo rushes, or base rushes, or whatnot. There's many kinds of opportunities about there, which comes down to the strategy of the commander. And execution is the different story there.
You are, like what he said, is a comparison with StarCraft units. I mean, you know how much damage they're going to do. You know that they're going to hit whatever that you send them against, right? Whereas you don't know that, and a comm doesn't know that when they fight another team. And what's great about that is a smart comm will notice that, because and they can change their strategy, as they're playing on the map. And I've seen this happen where the fight, the round will start, and say the Marine will see that they're winning most of the engagements, or it only takes two Marines to take down 3 skulks on the other side, and they'll notice that little bit of a difference. So now it changes your strategy that, okay, I can hold on to I can just send 2 Marines there instead of 3, send that other one that I wouldn't have sent with them over to another side of the map, because I know that those 2 Marines are enough to hold the fort, so to speak. So watching that and the comm getting that information and playing on that player skill kind of difference is really interesting to see.
Talking about that, is it easy to do a post-analysis of the match? Because as I see after, a scrim or a match, you guys always pop up that window with that, resource analysis and how the techs were evolving.
Post-analysis wise, I usually just think about what just happened and recap what just happened to my viewers in the map. Usually during the cast, I'm already commenting on what I think either won or lost the match, what moves, what thing got destroyed, what base got lost that actually won it for the other team and lost it for the other, and make an analysis there. And I do try to bring in stats that I can remember. As far as statistics from the server, that is all blind, and he's a master at that. So I'm going to let him take us through what he does.
So basically, it's difficult to answer because honestly, every post-game analysis I watched and talked about so far is from a game I've just recently watched. So I think the more interesting question popping in my head is now that would I be able to analyze a game just by watching at the stats? And the answer would be probably not. I mean, you can see clear trends there. For example, if a team did hold enough resources or did kill enough resources, or you see also the kills distribution if one team really outkilled the other really by having great margins. So you see, you can clearly see Ruffle Stomp wins, for example, in those matches. But you can also see what you can actually use is the tech, what teams, what commanders actually went for, like going armor one and weapon one first, then phase gate, or going mines first, or going ops first, going phase gates first, kind of stuff like this. This you can see. But I usually prefer actually watching the match to do analysis because that's the instance where you have so much information. And the most crucial information in this game is like when you watch on the map is actually the positioning. It's a time. If you have like 3 skulks on the west side of the map, you know they're weak on the east side of the map. That's when Marines can hit there or something, or when aliens actually not able to get to the Marine RTs just because the Marines position themselves so damn nicely that they just can't get out and hit those RTs. Those you don't see on the stats, you just see the result. You see the result like the aliens did kill 15 RTs before the 50-minute mark, which is great for them, which meant they had a great respiting. And if the Marines never hold more than 4 RTs constantly, they have a really tough time to upgrade anything. So you can use the NS2 stats, and it helps you on basically explaining what happened after the game, so you can pinpoint on the certain timelines and say that was the moment when the game shifted, that was the moment when they lost all their RTs and didn't came back, or that was the moment when they out-teched the aliens or the Marines, or when you see the kill graph go higher and higher or the resource graph go higher and higher for one team. But in the end, for the real analysis, what certain situations the team reacted wrong or not, you don't see it in the stats, but I think the same applies to StarCraft 2 stats.
Is there anything of an amazing strategy that you guys have seen, recently or not, from any team? What comes into mind?
I can think of one that really stuck out in my head because it was so out there that I really never thought they were going to do it. I don't remember what the team was. It was in one of my previous games from last week, I think. There was an alien team starting out in Tram. Their hive was at the bottom. I forget the name off the top of my head, but the hive was at the bottom of the map. The Marines were at the top, and they were in a stuck place. The Marines had like control of the other 2 tech points, and I just made a side comment. How funny would it be if the alien team decides to, because there's a second tech point at the top of the map, the Marines they ignored. They didn't even go for it. I was thinking to myself, how funny would it be if the aliens sisted up there and then put another hive in that spot in the middle of Marine territory and at the opposite end of their first hive. And lo and behold, a couple minutes later, they did it. And I couldn't believe it. I was just something out of the side of my brain that I thought would be cool to see, and so completely unexpected. And in the end, if I remember correctly, the alien team ended up winning. They got the second hive, and they were able to push the Marines out from where they were. And stuff like that is just something that's really exciting for me as a caster, and even just as a person watching the game, because this is my sports. This isn't, I don't pay attention to regular sports. You know, NS2 is my sports. It's a 50-50 shot if it'll work, but when it does, it's so exciting to see, because it's not something that you see with typical strategies. You know where the teams usually start. The middle, it gets a little fuzzy, and then at the end, it's just fun to see where it goes from there.
You know, a few matches come to mind. I've casted a lot of matches, and I've seen some big upsets in my time. And there's a few that come to mind that really were just. I mean, some of them were amazing plays. Some of them weren't that amazing in terms of what they did, but just surprising because you just didn't know that they were actually going to do that. Probably the first one is Mercury versus Archaea in the Invitational. When they set up they were on Tram and they set up in North Tunnels, basically early in the game. Caught Archaea out of position. They set up a base in North Tunnels. They set up an observatory, which made Archaea think that arcs were coming. So they went off to bite resource towers, but it was not that. They basically grabbed shotguns. All of Mercury's team ran into Archaea's only hive and egg locked them and shut them down. That was very, very exciting to see because this was coming off a bunch of losses. Mercury was coming off a bunch of losses, getting stomped by Archaea. So seeing that was very surprising. Another one was in the Finland Cup finals, Sonneman versus Exertus. In round 2, Sonneman was Marines, and they were just slamming Exertus left and right. They were winning. They killed 3, I think, of Exertus's hive in flight control, one right after the other after they just kept dropping it. And it just really looked like they were going to lose. And at the last second, Exertus rallies together, runs down into Sonneman's main base, kills the power in less than 5 seconds, and ends the game. It happened so quick that, and Sonneman's momentum was so strong that when that happened, yeah, okay, you can look at it as just like, okay, they just rushed the power, but no one was expecting that because of how well Sonneman was doing. So, just watching those things happen. And watching those upsets happen that's what makes it all worth it. I love seeing that.
I honestly have to say all these kind of gameplays are not so. I mean, yeah, they're cheesy strategies, and I don't know. I mean, it's just cheese. They bank on surprise, but I wouldn't count them on amazing strategies. Just try to compare. Okay, I'm gonna do it again. Comparing with Starcraft 2. I should do it, I know, but I'm doing it again. If you know a strategy, some like a cannon rush, for example, most people know a photo cannon rush or whatever else. You could say when you see it the first time, it's amazing. But what I'm more really amazed about is this really small steps, this really small decisions, which have such a huge impact of the game. For example, how you split your Marines, when to go for this timing of the shotguns, when to put up a phase gate where, all these small things actually. It's just a matter of about 20 seconds, 30 seconds, which if you're completely new, you won't even notice that. It's just I'm trying to find all the small beautiful things in a meta game. Which really amazed me. For example, like if you see StarCraft 2 and you see, oh, he's going for this big Colossus push, switching Templar, and the Terran lost all his Vikings, and he's switching to Colossus again because he just sacrificed all his Vikings. Just a beautiful timing to outplace enemy. This is the kind of things I'm amazed about, where the commander actually really knows how to cripple his enemy just by one small step and not this kind of big cheesy push.
Is it cheesy? Probably. But makes for some really great TV.
That is true.
Everyone
some
loves
good
to watch
entertainment.
cheese. Yeah. I like to watch cheese myself on Starcraft on the GSL. Don't get me wrong there. It's really entertaining to watch. But yeah.
It's not like super strategy, but it definitely adds more of a fun factor for us to see. and for the people viewing it. So it's like something different than the, oh, they're going to go for this right away, or they're going to go for this right away. And then, oh, what are they doing now? What is this?
Yeah, and some of those last-ditch efforts that a team throws that
Exactly.
is something so simple, yeah, is probably the most exciting to see. I mean, you're seeing a team that is just getting trounced, for say 20 minutes, and then pull off something that wins the game. I mean, I think everybody likes seeing that or just finds that interesting just because it's kind of like, wow, like they did it.
Even for me, like, I think it was Bourgeois Gorge. They were losing the whole, like, their match, and then they were aliens, and they just did this gorge rush. I think they knew, and I knew it wasn't going to work, but it was really funny. And unfortunately, the map was just too big. They couldn't make it to the other side in time, but it was great to see this gorge train just going all the way around Tram, it was great. I mean, and it wasn't going to work, but it was definitely fun to see in a last match where they knew they were the team on the bottom of the totem pole.
I don't know if I should ask this because, you're casters and maybe you shouldn't be biased, but do you guys have, favorite teams either from NA or the EU scene?
Hello, Loaded Gun.
I do. I'm just gonna say it.
You're gonna say it.
I have some favorite teams. I would have to say that some of my favorite teams are Damage Networks from NA. I really love seeing them play. I think they got some great people on there, some great shooters. I also liked actually both Quoth Gaming from EU and also Unchained the Wolves, which was a surprise to me. They were a very, very good team as well. The list can probably go on and on, but those are just the top in my head that I see. Obviously, seeing NEXL play and them going to Cologne they're always fun to see. So yeah, I mean, I definitely have some teams that I love to see play just because I've seen them play a lot and I like what they do.
Yeah, talking about favorites, I mean, everyone here in the community knows that Arceer is, I think, one of the top favorite teams out there by winning so many tournaments all around the world. Then also NEXL and recently also Goder. What I really love about Goder is how they improved over the last 6 months so greatly. That was just amazing to see how Grizzy put it up. It was just a mid-skill team, and Grizzy, who was leader earlier then, just did such an amazing work with such a good training schedule, and today we just saw them play 2-2 versus Arceer. So it definitely can pay out to practice hard, and it was just so good to constantly see them improve from game to game. Also, when I was playing them constantly over with my team, just to see, wow, from the top, we were always winning versus them, to right now where you always lose against them. So this is just pretty cool to see. And yeah, but my favorite team, of course, is HBZ, and I think they have the second best commander in the whole NS2 scene.
Of course, that's being
Period.
you.
Period.
I wonder why.
I'm totally biased about my teams that I like, and I also like with Red Dog, I like Damage Networks, but not for probably the same reason. There's this one person on the team, Decoy. I absolutely love her to death, and she's on their team, and she's just so much fun. And she's another girl gamer, so of course, somebody to relate to, and that's one of the reasons. And just watching them play, they're a lot of fun to play. And then somebody new this season in North America, Man Up, is actually a Division 4 team. But they're doing really well so far in terms of their games being played, and I like them a lot because, well, I like the lower division teams in general because some new things always happen with them. It's not cut and dry, but I used to play with a lot of them when I was with the Reddit community, so it was great to see them in the NSL now, and I try and follow them where I can.
But the subject of how the natural selection esports scene, in your perspective, I mean, do you guys really see it growing steadily, and what would you guys also would like to see or expect to see, be it in the near future or not?
I describe the esports scene in terms of natural selection. It's growing. I think that as more and more people, and I think we kind of touched on this before, but as more and more people find out about the game, and as more people watch casts of League games, it just makes it more interesting. I know that during my casts, sometimes I'll get a bunch of viewers that have never even seen the game before, and some of their comments are like, "Oh my God, this game looks really cool. I need to pick it up." Blah blah blah. So I enjoy seeing that because we need to grow the player base, and I think we will start seeing more and more teams sign up to the ENSL, and as more tournaments spring up and just provides more exposure to the game, I think we'll start seeing more people play. We get, like we just said, Nexel's Proving Grounds tournament is coming up, I believe, at the end of April, as far as all ENSL matches and stuff. So I definitely think that it's growing, and it looks really good right now. I think more people just need to start playing the game.
Natural Selection 1 had player bases for years. It's not something you typically see in a lot of games. People get bored of it and then they quit. But Natural Selection the first one lasted a while. Even when Natural Selection 2 was in the process of working, the NSL's been around for NS1 for years. You see it grows. And now with NS2, you have the people that played NS1 and love the game. Even with the marketing now and stuff, you see more and more people getting into it. And, even like in my cast as well, you get people that are totally new to the game and they're like, oh, this looks pretty cool. How does this work? And then they watch. And then, you just see it slowly but surely, and especially with more competitive tournaments coming out with UWE trying to make everything more competitive friendly. It's just something that I could see sticking around for a long time.
Natural selection itself, either NS1 or NS2, both are just basically, by the concept of the game, are so perfect for competitive gameplay for esports. What, of course, NS2 lacks, honestly, I have to say this, is this kind of AAA budget like other studios have to get the word out. But what is really amazing that from so many people who know the game and play the game just keep sticking to it. If you compare like player graphs, statistics from other games, they have this huge drop out. I mean, casual players start in and it goes down to a percentage of like less than 3% sticking to the game. On NS2, it's completely different. It has a higher percentage of people actually sticking to the game, and many of those are somewhat related to the competitive scene, even though the word is not perfectly spreading out. So Underworlds is working on that, and I think also with spreading the work, and of course that's why I'm trying to get sponsors in really hard. As soon as there are also regular smaller prize pools constantly, we can increase the interest really a lot, and I think this will still grow, and that's why I'm putting all this work in. I wouldn't bet on a dead horse. So I really enjoy this, and I really think NS2 can completely start off even more, and it's really amazing times.
How can people? Well, firstly, any shout outs that you guys want to give before we wrap this up?
All right, I give a shout out to Arkeer and Nexel, of course. I will meet them next week in Cologne, and they have to drink a lot of beer with me.
Nice.
I will generally just give a shout out to everybody in the NS2 community that is enjoying the game and enjoying all the casters' cast, not just mine, but everyone as a whole, and just supporting us in that way. It really does make it easier and more fun to know that we're being supported by the community to do what we do, and that really does help with everything. So thanks to everybody that has been watching us.
I want to say the same with Red Dog, especially like with the NSL and just the NS2 community in general. It's really rewarding to know that, people who come into our channels and watch the games with us and, talk in our chats and stuff and just interact. It's so rewarding just to see, that people are enjoying what we're doing. And that's just something that I absolutely love. And I want to thank everybody who stopped into my channel, Red Dog's channel, Blinds, everybody's that, just keep the game going and keep us going. It's just great.
Of course, besides the community and the viewers and everything, I love you all. Really, an honest thank you is for all referees, casters, and admins helping out, actually doing their free time, spending so much time, also besides the teams, to really work on something in their free time without getting any paycheck for it, to make this actually work out. And that's something I really wanna jump up there.
I have a kind of a wild card question, and let's see if if I can follow this up as well. But if you guys were any unit of the alien side of the Kara, but knowing yourself, what kind of unit would you be? Would you be a Gorge, Skulk, a Lurk,
Look,
Red
do you have
Dot?
to explain?
Oh, well, yeah, maybe.
Lurk.
Okay, Blind, if you want to,
Are we gonna get
because
all
I'm writing
Freudian
this
here?
down. Like, this might
Oh,
be
man.
something really deep.
No, it's not so deep actually. It's just because it was a standard lurk for my teams in NS1, and I had it so in my head to play lurk, be dodgy, and harass the enemy team, and try to do damage, and try to be sneaky. You don't catch me. Nah.
I'd probably pick the Fade.
The
I
heavy
like
hitter.
like the gameplay of the Fade. I just like how they can survey things without being seen, so to speak, sometimes, and strike quickly and leave quickly. Really do like the Fade.
I would probably say Lurk as well. I'll tell you now, in NS1, I was not a good alien ever. And then NS2, I started actually really getting into alien side, and the Lurk was always the one that I went to first, mainly because they can fly. So I love the idea of being able to fly around the map. They have a little bit of a distance thing too, because when I go in as a Skulk, I tend to die pretty quickly. So it's good to have the distance on them. It's good to have the distance, and yeah, I like being able to fly and hang from ceilings.
Anyway, guys, that's the wrap for tonight's interview. Last but not least, how can people follow you? Be it Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, what have you?
Twitter Blind NS2, Twitch Blind NS2, YouTube Blind NS. I think that's it.
Yeah, and for me, Twitter is at StingRedDog. YouTube is youtube.com/StingRedDog. And Twitch is twitch.tv/Sting_RedDog because I couldn't nab the regular one.
Yeah, mine's pretty easy. It's all the same. My Twitter is at Solanthia, and I hope you'll be able to put the name down because a lot of people spell it wrong because my name is pretty unique. It's at Solanthia. Twitch is the same, and I have a YouTube channel reserved to my name. I haven't used it yet, but I will eventually get around to it.
Nice. No, don't worry. To all the viewers that are listening now, I'll post the links right below the vid. And actually, I have to ask. Some very interesting point you mentioned, Saul. And this is all again for all the three of you. Why Blind? Why Red Dog? And why Solanthia?
I'll start, I guess. Solanthia came to me way back when I think it was when I was playing World of Warcraft. I've had this name for years. The great part about it was it's unique. The spelling's unique. You don't think of it like how it sounds sometimes. So if there's a Solanthia out there, it's most likely me. I've played a lot of different games under this tag. I didn't play NS1 in this tag. I had a different tag back then, but it just kind of randomly came to me. I can't remember how I came up with it.
I have had Red Dog since 1994. I actually remember the exact moment that I chose it. I was at my birthday party, and my birthday party went to a place called I don't remember the actual name of the place, but basically it was a gaming place, and Mech Warrior, the original Mech Warriors, was you got into these cockpits, and obviously you and your friends got into these cockpits that went all around you, and you had a joystick and a computer screen in front of you, and you walked around mechs, and you just blew each other to pieces. And basically, I went up to the counter, and you had to give a handle, and at the time, I didn't even know what a handle was, and they're like, no, your nickname, blah blah, and I'm like, there was so much pressure, and I had to pick one really fast, and behind the guy was a Red Dog beer commercial. And I saw that, and I immediately said Red Dog. So ever since that, thank you Red Dog Beer, which I don't even think is around anymore. But that is why I'm Red Dog, and Sting was just because of that was my clan's name, the first clan that I joined back in the day.
Oh, well, my name actually derives from my gaming experience in NS1. That was when, well, usually playing Marines, I mean, the maps sometimes are a little bit darker, or depends on your gamma settings. That was when you actually know where to look for skulls hiding in corners or on top. And it happened so often to me that I was looking at the exact right direction. There was a skulk in front of my screen, but still somehow I didn't recognize the skulk in front of me sitting waiting for there and just kept on moving and died to it. So I got really frustrated with myself and started to name myself Blind for it. And I kind of stick to that name.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for your time. It was longer than we expected, but viewers, don't worry. There'll be time tags with the different subjects right below the vid for an easier guide and easier view as well. So, well, to our guests, thank you so much. It's been an honor to have you on the show. And, all the best in your future. And please, viewers, follow them. These guys are great and they're doing an awesome job every single day. Okay. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks. It was great being here.